Welcome to your next lecture entitled Language and Social Worlds. Identity is a very important part of language. One of the most common ways of identifying a person is through language. People use language as one of their most significant identifying features, and many believe, myself included, that language is the best medium for preserving and expressing culture and traditions. I pose these questions to you. How do you identify with the language or languages that you speak? And what would happen if your language was taken away? How would you navigate your social world without the ability to communicate? Something very interesting that humans do is they adjust their language. They adjust the style of how they speak. There are variations in style given various social circumstances. When I teach, I speak in a different style than if I'm hanging out with my friends. And I teach college students and high school students differently than if I teach, let's say, kindergarten students. Sometimes our language is informal, and sometimes it's formal. We tend to use informal language when our experiences are less structured, like when we're with our friends. However, we speak formally when we are in institutions and settings such as schools or in doctor's offices. I speak informally with my students and with my friends. However, if I were to have a meeting with the anthropology department chair or one of the administrators or deans at the universities where I teach, you better believe I'm going to change the way that I speak to them. Another pattern that we find is the more formal or institutionalized the situation, the more attention we pay to our language, and thus we are more likely to conform the way that we speak to meet the linguistic norms of our society. We tend to speak more properly. We do something called audience design. That's when we choose the level of speech according to the audience that we are addressing. Like I said, I address high school students and college students differently than when I address little kids. We also accommodate our speech and adjust our speech to sound more like that of the person we are communicating with. Slang is a unique feature used mostly by young people. Slang sets up its own norms and its own vocabulary. Slang serves a social function by setting boundaries and permitting speakers to assert or claim membership or identity. Slang is often a feature of the speech of the young and powerless or marginalized people. Young people do not have political rights. That's why slang is often associated with youth cultures and youth subcultures. Here's an example of Cockney rhyming slang from working class neighborhoods in London.
Jam jar,
Bristol Cities,
Frog and Toad,
skin and blister.
a Farmer Giles,
Bang on for the day.
a ginger beer.
It's not something we're conscious of, do you know what I mean? Well, rhyming slang started by a way of keep the police out of your affairs.
for a way so London guys could talk their dodgy business.
We only use the first part of the language, right? The first part. The rhyming part is there really and truly for a teaching purpose.
I kind of only use them in jest.
They have no idea what the bloody hell I'm talking about.
Mince pies,
Dog and Bone,
pony and trap,
a Ruby Murray,
plates of meat,
I'm going for a Brad.
Dicky Dirt,
cock and hen,
Apples and Pears,
Rosie Lee,
a Dolly Cart,
right? Worry and strife or trouble and strife.
a Richard III,
You might get called a Burke, which is short for Berkshire Hunt.
Rubber dub,
a Vera Lynn,
pig's ear,
a Jimmy Riddle,
2 and 8s.
Bristol Cities,
I'm not having no more of this pony, mate.
Big Ginger.
cut.
As we saw in the Cockney rhyming slang, specialized slang doesn't just represent or label needed concepts, but it also establishes bonds between the members of this in-group, and it also enforces boundaries for outsiders. For example, with Cockney rhyming slang, they developed this type of language so police officers wouldn't understand them and get involved in their dodgy business. If you cannot understand my slang, you don't belong here. Slang is another example of how language establishes a social identity. Slang is a type of language marked by its obvious rejection of formal rules. And through this form of communication, solidarity can be formed and a sense of common group membership. By choosing a language associated with a specific group or accommodating language, we are making a claim and acting to be counted as a member of that group. This is an example of Bay Area slang terms set to hip-hop music that originate from the Bay Area or San Francisco and Oakland, San Jose, that region in the United States. Now this video is a little bit NSFW, meaning there are some curse words, so please keep that in mind.
Yo. So, this for all the trill, real talk young bosses pushing the hard line out in B-Town, E-Town, the old, the rich, the skull, Valley Joe, the tank, Sanho, the whole damn yeah, you better know I see you. The Baden gave out presents like it was Christmas, picked up and sampled by so many towns. But they don't give us our due for providing you with slang for all of your mouths. Y'all runners and rippers, beezies and marks, that's hoes, bitches, punks of all sorts, just trying to make scratch. Guap, that's cash. Used to say bread but gave it to New York. Y'all lightweight gas, but I'm gonna smash. Means you think you boss, but I'm murking your ass. And murking is killing, I'm moving too fast. But try to keep up cause our slang never lasts. We doing it, moving, gigging and ghosting while thizzing and yoking, scraping, side showing, that's dancing and popping a pill that's purple, spinning the wheel and driving in circles in Oakland to O, Berkeley that's B-Town and out to the SCO. Got no business in the rich, then don't go in the land of yo, where it's Molly and Barney, we sparking that Joe, where we all say for show, which turn to for she's, which turn to for shizzle. Y'all stole all of these, now it's what it do. What's really good, I'm thinking about it, comes out as Mike could. Y'all so out of pocket, true player haters who took player haters and claim it as theirs. Ironic, so out of frame, just like the stunners that pop up in verses all over the game. Mouthpiece, let me spit at this bopper, rewind. Mouthpiece means I'm quite the quick talker, real tough, real talk, real spit, cuss. But Cuddy don't say cuss to no real bloods, they might pull out the burner, and then they might what? Yeah, they might murk ya. I'm glad you're a learner, don't trip. Just get you a zip, or maybe twat man a dub sack player, that's a 20 sack pimp. Saw you poppy collar, but when you try to place where it originate at, ain't not a one of y'all holler, but fine, don't acknowledge. D-Boys came out by E40 and 94, man, I put that on mamas, put that on Cephas, smash on any non-believers from any other regions, been in them corners, Knox gotta get served, pockets is touching, but I might wanna get swerved, choosing on a Scully who might fly me to Boston and give me a stack that goes Stewie till I'm on one, and I don't have time to break down what I'm talking, but it's intuitive, that's why we reinvent it often, so quit cupcaking, get your cake up, if you wanna put shoes on your scraper, cause game recognize game, to a giant it's a small thing, find a bopper giving all brain, if I see you slip, I might pull a lick, take off on any weak J-Cat, me mugging out the whip, how much you got on it, better new 5, I'm stunting, get molded in a who ride, sipping on Heen, you smell me, might yada that I mean, if I want you to agree with what I'm speaking on, you feel me, post it up to the homie swoop, scoop, round the way, where there's no fingerprints, where you're making loot, LIP's a spit, no fear, thought your city made it up, let me get this clear, we got your own 9 slang wish list here, but you can't have these, there's no gifts this year, bitch. Just go ahead and marinate on that for about 5 hours, by the time you snatch a couple, already be doing it, moving, politicking, shaking hands and kissing babies, you already know, Bay Area all day, I thought you thought, bruh, oh boy.
Now, as you saw with the Bay Area slang, a lot of those were hip-hop terms that we hear in music or see in videos, but some were very specific to the region of the Bay Area in California. In the United States, we're a very large country, but we also have a lot of different dialects. Dialects are variations in language that correlate with the locale where language is spoken. Dialectology is the study of spatially and geographically determined differences in various aspects of language. Dialectologists explore the typical local vocabulary and pronunciation of the lexicon by the subjects of their study. This is a classic map of the United States, as well as the terminologies they use for soft drinks, like Coca-Cola, Sprite, Pepsi, etc. The blue regions in the United States, they don't use the word soda, but instead they use the word pop. If you were to order a soda in a restaurant, they would ask you, would you like some pop? Or, I would like a pop. Now, where we are in the East Coast of the United States, for the most part, we all order a soda. And we can see that yellowish, dark green region aligns with the key in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Now, when we go down south, where we see the red regions, the very deep red to the lighter pinks, they say something different. Instead of saying soda or pop, they simply order a Coke. So if they were to go into a restaurant and say, hi, I would like a Coke, the waiter or waitress would ask, oh, what kind of Coke? And then you might want to order a Sprite or something else. So Coke is just the generic catch-all term that means soda or soft drink. Language changes over time, especially when communities are isolated or when you have an intermixing of different cultures. A pidgin is a type of language that evolves in circumstances where there are limited relations between the speakers of different languages. Pidgin involves the mixture or blending of two or more languages. Sometimes the grammatical system is based on one language and the vocabulary is taken from another. And sometimes certain complex features of the base language are dropped. A classic example is Hawaiian Pidgin, and you're going to see an example of that in the next slide. There's also a process called creolization. This is the evolution of a pidgin language into a more complex phonological and grammatical system. It's a pidgin language that develops its own type of phonology or sounds, and the grammatical system becomes more complex and structured. Two examples of Creole language that I'm sure you might be familiar with are Jamaican Patois, as well as Haitian Creole. This next video provides an example of Hawaiian Pidgin English, and it does a fantastic job of discussing the history and the origin of Pidgin language, as well as giving some real-world examples.
Oh, you know what? Dave, you go on boat, all right? John, you go on boat. Go on. Time you go 2, they're on 3. You guys go this side. It seems like the other day, I'm go about 3 times, but when you're coming down sprint sometimes, then lengthen out.
So, Joe, you let me read them?
I go read them.
Tell them
the second time. Yeah.
People think Pidgin one language. Yeah, that's my language. That's the language of my heart. Maybe I don't use them every day because I don't see people who only speak Pidgin, so I just speak to them or talk to them in standard English. But if somebody talk ladies to me, well, I mean, just come natural for talk. I guess because it was from small kid time. That's how I was talking. It's the language of Hawaii. I mean, I don't want to say the Hawaiian language not important. That's the indigenous people's language, and that's great. But the Hawaii we know today, for all the immigrants that come from all over the place, Japan, Philippines, China, Portugal, when come together, that's the language.
Get people ask, what's Pidgin? Pidgin one language we talk in Hawaii. More than half the people here. Different from Hawaiian. Maybe a little bit like English, but get all kinds of stuff from other kind of languages mixed in. Like from Hawaiian, Cantonese, Portuguese, Japanese, Korean, Filipino. You know, other people would work the plantations.
At the time when they started the plantations in Hawaii, the power on the plantations were primarily English speakers. The immigrant groups do not know each other's language. They're different languages. So in order to communicate with each other, they are using English or whatever English they can hear. So let's say a Japanese immigrant and a Portuguese immigrant trying to speak English to each other, but throwing in features from their own first languages as well. That's how Pidgin start. One of the interesting features about Pidgin, it has to get vocabulary from somewhere. So one of the things it does is it borrows a lot of vocabulary from the languages around it. I can sort of hear my grandmother saying stuff. It's something like, "You like banana, you wiki wiki cow cow mai tai." The meaning of that, "You like banana, if you want this banana, you wiki wiki cow cow. You quickly eat it, mai tai, it'll be okay."
What about the manapua? Oh, manapua, chashu? Yes.
The word manapua, which have been reported to have come from mea ono pua'a. Okay, so mea thing, ono, delicious, pua'a, pig. Right? So delicious pig thing, right? So manapuas are those buns that have the pork inside of them. And I can imagine, I mean, I don't know exactly when it started or what happened, but I can imagine someone, Hawaiian coming up and asking a Chinese guy, give me the delicious pig thing, So mea ono pua'a. And then mea ono pua'a then becomes manapua.
Oh, now you have roast pork too. Roast pork, I like one too. And roast duck.
So who we are, all that we think and do on this island, all that stuff that make Hawaiian culture is kind of captured in the language.
Another important aspect of language is language learning, or bilingualism. As many of you know, learning a second or third language is very, very difficult, especially as we get older. Yet children growing up with two languages manage to keep them separate, and they learn quickly which languages to use in certain circumstances. When studying bilingual cultures and bilingualism in educational settings, it's important to identify the languages involved, to learn how the language was acquired, to know the age of learning and the time spent using the language, as well as understand the skill level of the speaker. Some people may not be able to read or write in one language, but speak it fluently. Another unique aspect of bilinguals and bilingualism is many people who speak more than one language prefer one language for certain functions and another language for other functions. Many bilinguals also do something called code switching. Code switching is a change between languages, sometimes in the middle of a conversation. Bilingual speakers often use many words from new language with the old language, because many of the people they know and associate with speak both languages. Switching may take place because of the availability of the words, preference for a certain slang, or general comfort with the language. Vocabulary for code switching will differ greatly depending on the topics discussed. It is very important to study language in social contexts because speakers who engage in dialogue using two languages carry a wealth of social meaning. Each language becomes a sort of identity for that speaker. Those of you who speak more than one language, how often do you switch between languages? And can you come up with any examples of when you have done this? Or have you ever seen someone code switch between languages? This is a video of famous comedian George Lopez speaking in Spanglish. Again, there are some curse words in this video clip, so please keep that in mind as you're watching.
You could vote English as the official language, but it'll never work. Because we're always going to speak Spanglish. It's too late. That's all we've talked in our house for years.
¿Qué pasó, tía? I went to the store to buy those zapatos that I like, pero estaban gone. Los shoes amarillos, sí, estaban todos sold out. And I even hided them too. Do you remember hiding shit you couldn't afford to buy that day? You take this shoe, I'm gonna put them over here, mira. I'll make a mark right there so they know. Then you come back Saturday when you got money, watch out, hey. We'll always speak English and Spanish. My grandfather used to yell at me in Spanish, and I would yell at him back in English. Tira la basura, cabrón! I am! For God's sakes, déjame en paz. Cripes. Higo de la chingada. You heard me, Higo, H-D-L-J. Higo de la chingada. And let me tell you this, success even surprises Latinos. You know, like I was in a hotel and I'm staying in the presidential suite. Mira, muy chingón, the presidential suite. Thank you for being proud. So they knock on the door, the lady, housekeeping. I open the door, he's already cleaned the room. Gloria, never mind, he's already cleaned that room. Parece a skinny Eric Estrada.
So I hope now you have a little bit of a better understanding of how language operates in social worlds and in social contexts. And I hope you had a chance to reflect on your own experience with language. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.